Hello. How is everyone doing? Namaste. Can't do my hand thing because my other hand's holding the phone. Excuse me, I just drinking some, Pellegrino. I'm a little burpy. I'm on my way to my client's house, so while I was getting my lunch from the store, you guys have to ride with the beep beep in bad angles again, sorry. Get to the point when Spirit tells me to do a message, I just got to get it out, because if I don't, I forget, and then I get chastised in the Spirit for not putting the message out. So I try to be obedient as long as I have time to do it. This one's about emotions, but I wanted to circle around to yesterday because Spirit had me put out a message about communication, and then there was a reading with it. There's not going to be a reading today because I have to go to work. But I wanted to talk about a little more, and I did put the little edit on the description of the video, but I wanted to talk a little bit about when we are constantly apologizing. And so this kind of goes into people not understanding the power of the spoken word. Thoughts are very powerful as well, but so is the spoken word. And we have, ancient knowledge, ancient civilizations, ancient, I want to say beings, because I think it even goes beyond humans at this point, but they understood the power of the spoken word, and that is why words are so important, because it's not just the words, it's the meaning, it's the intention. And when we are what's the word I'm looking for, Spirit? When we are molded and programmed and finessed and trained through societal standards, through our education system, through our cultures, through our religions, to use words in certain ways, that becomes a subconscious programming. And that's very powerful, because that ends up being integrated into our belief system and ultimately into the reality that we manifest for ourselves. And this is something that we do to ourselves unknowingly, but we also affect others as well. So when, for example, spell work, when people cast curses upon people, that is real, because what is happening is usually the person that is casting a curse, and it can be a literal curse, or it could just be like, I hope you die and things like that. It's an energy that's coming from a very emotional place. Thank you, Spirit, because we're going to go into emotions. So it's an energy that comes from a very emotional place. So there's a lot of power and energy behind it that you're sending out. And then if you're sending it to a specific person, you're blasting that person with that energy. And if that person is not protecting themselves energetically, they are unknowingly receiving that energy, and it will seep into their life. So they may experience, unfortunate events and negative things in their reality. Maybe not necessarily death, but just loss and things like that. So there's a lot of power in the spoken word. So the first thing I wanted to address is using apologies, and how we should shift how we say those things. It has kind of become, at least in Western culture, I can only speak to that, pretty normal for people to constantly apologize for things. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Like, everything is I'm sorry. So the example is, when I was talking to my friend Emma, and we were talking about communication, which I spoke yesterday on the live yesterday. She apologized for, oh, I'm sorry if I don't get back to you. And immediately in my spirit, I heard, you don't need to apologize for that, because that's just setting a healthy boundary. There's nothing to apologize for. Apologies, and I'm hearing that when I get off this live, that I need to look up the etymology of the word, because I love looking at the root meanings of words. But what Spirit is saying is an apology is supposed to be used for when we've done something wrong or we've done something to hurt somebody, and it's the power behind an apology is to mend the situation, to take accountability, and to make things right so that you can shift the energy. It's a very powerful word, but we have diluted that word through feeling constantly shame and guilt for things we shouldn't feel shame and guilt for. So I feel like this is actually a very new download for me as well. I just got this download the other day. And so this is something that I feel like we're being called to really pay attention to. And I don't know why Spirit's putting so much an emphasis on that apology word. But I feel like a lot of people don't trust apologies anymore because it's been so diluted through just it being used so much in ways that it's not meant for, that when people do try to give a sincere apology, it's hard to accept it, it's hard to trust it, it's hard to believe it. So that's just one side note about the word apology. Don't apologize for things that you don't need to apologize for. I know it's going to be a knee-jerk reaction, but what Spirit is saying is to take a pause before responding to things. If your knee-jerk reaction is to apologize, catch yourself and take a pause before you say something and remind yourself, oh, I don't need to apologize for this because I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not hurting anybody. Okay? So that's the side note on apologies. That kind of leads into the conversation about emotions. So in the healing process, one of the most powerful things that you can embrace is your emotions. And we kind of poo-poo on having emotions. I will say, though, I have noticed in recent times that there is a shift and movement towards more openness towards emotions, especially for the masculine energies. Because, for many generations, there is this idea that in order to be an alpha male, in order to be a strong male, you can't show emotions, that makes you weak. And I don't know where that idea came from, but I can only assume it came from entities that want to control the human experience for their own good. Like, we don't want the masculines truly being powerful in their masculine energy in a healthy way. We want them to be prisoner in a toxic mindset. So the thing with emotions is that's the part of us that makes us human, because when we're in our spirit form, in our pure energetic form of being a divine spirit, we don't experience emotions the same way we do when we're in human form, because our soul is love. It's a frequency, it's a vibration, it's a sense of being, and it encompasses all, okay? That's why God in the Bible said, I am. Literally, when he said that, he means I am, period, meaning I am everything. So when we're in the human body and we're experiencing the 3D world, this physical existence, we are experiencing it from a human perspective. And so, the Creator gave us emotions as a way to experience the, I don't want to say opposite, but the contrast to what it's like to be a divine being, so that we would have that experience. It's also meant to be a barometer of our spiritual health. So when things are out of balance within our spiritual being, when there's traumas and wounding and, false belief systems, or ones that don't align with who we truly are, then our emotions will be out of balance. And this is important because when we're angry, when we're sad, when we're frustrated, when we're these more heavier, what we perceive to be negative emotions, these are the things that are kind of trying to alert, and they're trying to make us become self-aware that there is some kind of imbalance in our energy so that we can address it. So we don't need to shy away from being angry. We don't need to shy away from being sad. We're not meant to sit in those emotions for long periods of time, hence anxiety and depression and things like that. We're meant to experience it and then reflect and take action with those emotions. Like, okay, if I'm feeling angry, why am I feeling angry? What is the purpose of this? What am I supposed to be getting out of this? So, give me a second, guys, because I'm kind of just pulling into the neighborhood here. I'm just going to park under this tree for a minute before I go pull into my neighbor's yard. Or client's yard, sorry. Let me check the time real quick. Okay, we're good. So it's really important when you start to have this awakening process, when you start this healing journey, that you become really comfortable with moving through your emotions. And the psychology community has names for this. Like, I don't share information that's not already out there. I'm not like some psychic guru who's like, oh, this is new information for mankind. I feel like Spirit just has me bring it in a way that normal people can relate to it, that maybe are not connecting with other ways of receiving the information, if that makes sense. So yeah, so I think Spirit was saying with the emotions, because I was walking into Super One to get my lunch, and I don't remember what I heard something, and it was regarding emotion, and I was just like, and Spirit was like, download. So okay, thank you, Spirit. So Spirit wanted to bring me around to why, like, an example of this. So a personal example is when we go through loss, right? So it can be like actual death of a person in our life. It can be walking away from someone or having someone walk away from us. I'm also hearing, I'm hearing empty nest. So like, so parents that have children that are leaving for adulthood. I'm hearing quitting a job or getting fired from a job or transitioning. I'm hearing a lot of examples pour through. So when we experience loss, so I think thank you, Spirit. Basically, the examples were to use loss as the example, okay? So those are the different kinds of loss. So when we experience loss, we go through a grieving process. And oftentimes, depending on how you grew up and the area that you grew up in, and, just things I've talked about before, is we may fight that grieving process. We may try to ignore it. We may try to shove it down. We'll, self-numb. We might turn to substances like alcohol or, smoking weed or doing other drugs or, oh, it's a pretty kitty. Sorry, squirrel. You might dive into video games or, go to the gym incessantly, like overly, going to the gym too much. What are some other examples, Spirit? Emotional eating, that's something I'm going to be working on. Burying yourself in work, hobbies. Some of that is fairly healthy coping mechanisms, but anytime that you are doing something to ignore what you're feeling, even if on the surface it appears good, it's not. Because you're trying to slap a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, okay? Our emotions are there to help us process through these situations. Oh, Kitty's crossing the street. They're really pretty. It's like a calico. And what Spirit is asking you to do is to get comfortable with feeling what you're feeling without judging it. And then asking that feeling, why are you here? What is your purpose? What do I need to see? What do I need to learn? What is the point of me feeling this? And then a great way to do this is through prayer and meditation, because prayer is when we ask, right, for that guidance, for that help. And meditation is when we quiet our mind so we can hear the answers, okay? So if you're in a season of loss, and I feel Spirit must have been using this example because I feel like most of the people that are going to tune into this message are probably experiencing some kind of form of loss, okay? I also just heard loss of self. So you might be someone who is going through an awakening process, a transformation process, and the way you have been your entire life is starting to fall away, and it's a little bit, I'm hearing, discombobulating. You feel like your world has been flipped upside down, and you feel very, they're showing me like someone like on a boat, like seasick, of like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Like there's this sense of knowing that you can never go back to the way you were, but you don't really know where you're going. And so it's this little bit of sense of unknowing. So there's this loss of self, of like who you thought you were, and this uncertainty of not knowing who you're becoming. That's going to probably be very specific for like one person. Anyways, I digress. So in this process of experiencing this loss, be mindful of how you are handling this. If you are catching yourself doing things to suppress how you feel and to ignore what you're feeling, understand that the only thing you are actually doing is you're hurting yourself. You're prolonging the inevitable. You're making the healing process harder and more painful than it needs to be out of stubbornness, and that's ego. So this is going to require you to be very self-aware and mindful when you are feeling emotions, you might not be, because I'm hearing there are attachment styles, because I'm dealing with this too, like anxious attachments. We overfeel everything. Avoidant attachments don't feel as much up front. So I don't know why Spirit's having me talk about this, but this is like my personal situation. It might be that you're not feeling anything yet because you've numbed out, but it's all in your head. I'm seeing like a bunch of swords, which in tarot is the mind. So it's your thoughts, and they're not translating to feelings, and your soul is like, you need to feel this so that you can transmute the energy. You need to get out of your head and give yourself permission to feel the emotions that want to be expressed, so that you can connect your mind and your heart together and transmute that energy into healing. Yeah, so some of you really, really stay up in your head when you're going through stuff, and you try to block out those emotions. How's that working for you? Is it ruining your relationships? Someone's spirit team is sassy. You might have been functioning this way most of your life, and so in your head you've convinced yourself that it's fine, it works. But does it? How is the quality of your relationships in your life? With your parents, with your siblings, with your children, with your significant other, with your colleagues, with your friends? I think there's some people that are going to tune into this that are going to have a little spiritual spanking in this video. They're going to have a little epiphany moment. And let me say that I personally, when I do these messages, get a little uncomfortable. My ego gets a little uncomfortable because I fear that the people watching, when stuff like this comes out, think it's me attacking them, and it's not. Like I I hope you understand that when I channel messages, it's your love teams coming through to tell you what you need to hear. So if you're resonating with it and it's stinging, it's not me. I don't know you. Okay? It's your love team, your ancestors, your loved ones that have passed on, your spirit guides, the entities that you believe in, like Jesus or, Buddha or whoever it is that you connect with. They're all around you in the spiritual realm, trying to help guide you. And sometimes they use people like me because you're not listening to your own intuition. And you might be being pushed into a season where they want you to grow, to heal and grow and evolve, and you might be kind of stubborn and fighting it. And so they'll use someone like me, and there's lots of people like me out there that are just going to bring the messages to you as an extra little confirmation of something you've already known in your spirit. You've just been ignoring it or suppressing it or trying to deny it, okay? So